And we are recording now, so whenever you're ready, Brittany, take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Kristen. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on here virtually. Everybody's, kind of experiencing some tough and unsure times right now, so I hope that this presentation and conversation will lift up your spirits and we can talk about some good, positive things. My name is Brittany Waldman, and I am the Director of Field Operations for the Pass It On Outdoor Mentors program. I've been volunteering with the Outdoor Mentors program since about 2015, where I quickly realized that this program is essential to kids in our communities, as I realized there were so many youth right in my own backyard who didn't have the chance to experience the outdoors like I did growing up. So it's been really fun being involved, and back in June of 2019, I was hired on full-time to lead this new initiative that I'm going to share with you guys today called our Shooting Sports Outreach Program. So essentially, what we are trying to do is bridge the gap between hunters and target shooters. For those of you who do not know, there are close to 2,000 athletes participating in the Kansas State High School Clay Target League, and the league is just continuing to grow. It's mushrooming in size. Until now, there's been no coordinated or focused effort to encourage this population to go hunting or even assist them with hunting endeavors. So our effort will address the issue of getting these shooting athletes into the field for continued and new hunting opportunities. So like I said, back in June, I was hired on full-time to lead this new outreach program, and it's just been a lot of fun. I've learned a whole lot, and hopefully we're going to keep plugging away with it. Since September 1st, we've now arranged new and continued opportunities for 220 Kansas youth. We've engaged youth from 44 of the 74 teams in Kansas, and we've hosted 13 dove hunts, 13 pheasant hunts, 52 deer hunts, and 10 waterfowl hunts. We would have had about 25 turkey hunts going on, but with the recent CDC recommendations for COVID-19, we've decided to postpone those, and we'll just look forward to brighter and sunnier days when we're fishing. So it was important to us when we got started to kind of establish a baseline for this program. So in June, we attended the state shoot where they have close to 1,000 kids shooting trapped there competitively. It's open to every team. It's open to every youth. You don't have to qualify for it. So it's really a great opportunity for these kids to go and shoot against other teams in person. So at the shoot, we asked many of the athletes to complete a survey through SurveyMonkey, and we really developed this to kind of gauge 4 different things, and that was to learn more about the population, understand if these youth are hunting, to find out their level of interest in programs like what we were trying to put together, and then also to collect contact information to start a database. This shooting league, this college clay target league, high school clay target league, is not very accessible. The contact information for the athletes and coaches aren't online anywhere. So you have to do a lot of networking yourself to get access to that. So I spent a lot of time talking to individual schools and parents to find out who their trap coach was, and then I had to engage a conversation based from there. So now we have a pretty solid database, and that's what we used when planning and facilitating hunts to get kids out. So pending, if the league will still happen this year, they will have 90 teams for the 2020 season, which is just really exciting. So there are kind of 3 spokes to this model that we have, and one of them is land access, who are our mentors, and then the youth, of course. We've been very fortunate and have generous landowners through our Pass It On Outdoor Mentors program. When we ask, they typically do not hesitate to have kids come out to their land and hunt, which is just a really great blessing. After a number of successful hunts and shared content online, we've had landowners reaching out to us to have kids come hunt. Some of them have mentioned that we have a deer management problem, and I could definitely spare a few kids, hunting and learning how to hunt here. Or, hey, I only use this land for waterfowl hunting, so why don't you guys come out and shoot turkeys Some of our hunting locations have also come from the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism. So they have wildlife area managers that contact us to utilize special hunt leftover tags or tags that went unfilled. Even since we've had some success in filling those special hunts, we've had some of these wildlife managers plan for the future and setting some tags aside for us. But we've also had the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and the U.S. Army Marine Corps of Engineers reach out to us and say, hey, how can we engage your guys' program to get some of the kids out onto our lands or our special hunts, because we're just having a hard time finding them. So our mentors, the wonderful mentors, we can't run this program without them. We partner with the NGOs, so many NGOs across the state, to recruit mentors. This mentoring usually is just for a specific hunt. However, a lot of these mentors do join us for multiple hunts. I'll use the Ringneck Rustlers Pheasants Forever chapter here in Wichita as an example. A lot of those guys are obviously upland hunters, but a lot of them also like to duck hunt and waterfowl or goose hunt, and they like to deer hunt. So we've been able to really utilize those mentors in specific conservation groups across every species. Really ultimately our goal is to find mentors who are experienced with hunting that species and they can share that experience with that youth. So we also have program mentors, so traditional mentors, which is what I would consider myself. So I'm a vetted folks who are matched and supervised through organizations like Big Brothers, Big Sisters. You kind of make a formal commitment to be a mentor to not only just one kid, but maybe multiple kids, and stay in constant contact with that youth and just provide a friendship with them. And then we also have volunteers and guides. These are folks who have established a relationship with us and have outdoor expertise as well. So we also encourage and require a parent guardian or legal guardian, it could be even a brother or a cousin, maybe even an uncle, to be present at the hunt. So we have found that many of these parents or this third party individual that's, kind of supervising it have found like leaving the hunt that they're motivated and would like to maybe start hunting again or learn how to hunt themselves, which is really exciting. So safety is our biggest focus. So we want to make sure we go above and beyond, that we have no one-on-one mentoring. So that's the main goal behind having that third party there is, one, we keep kids and mentors safe, but we also kind of inspire other adults to take up the sport of hunting or dust off their shotgun. So connecting with the shooting sports athletes probably was the hardest part, but now it's probably the easiest since we've been hosting hunts now. Like I said earlier, this particular league does not have like a accessible database for the coaches or assistant coaches. I've had to cold call a lot of people, and I'm sorry in advance, and I'm sorry if you received one of those calls at the beginning of the year, because it was just one of those things where I had to spend a lot of time talking about, what our program vision was and how we were going to do it. It was a lot of pie in the sky, but I had a lot of people get on board and share our hunt opportunities with their shooting athletes, which is the main reason why we've had so much success today. So once we have athletes participate in one event, we have their contact information because we have them sign a liability waiver electronically. So therefore we collect their parent, the youth's name and information, but we also have the coaches. So we have this really good web of communication going on with them. We also ask them to fill out a pre-hunt survey where we collect additional information also. So we use that data to get youth on to the next event. So say we organize a dove hunt in September, that's fantastic, but now I want to get that kiddo that went dove hunting with us out to pheasant hunt. So when I host a pheasant hunt or put a hunt together, I send it out to those same kids. So therefore, we're engaging these youth in multiple species and on multiple opportunities. And a lot of times I have a lot of youth contacting me to go on these hunts. As busy as that keeps me, it's also very encouraging because that means that these kids really like it and they really want to continue to hunt. So who are these youth? Many of you know what this model is. It's the Outdoor Recreation Adoption Model, or the ORAM if you don't. However, a few of us map our programs on the ORAM. And after attending a couple meetings, I thought this was a great idea for us to start doing. And so what I did is after we hosted so many hunts, we quickly realized that we weren't just, plugging kids into one section here. We were really cycling them through the retention, the recruitment phase, and maintaining them there. And that's really exciting. So I wanted to share some of those stories with you guys because I think that is important to hear. So on the far left here under recruitment, you have a kiddo named Kaylin. Kaylin is a trap shooter. First year, went through Hunter Ed to be able to shoot on the trap team. And he was able to sign up for one of our first hunts, our first pheasant hunts. And so this is on a controlled shooting ground, and it's a very one-on-one mentored hunt. So it's very much, if you've never hunted before, this is going to give you everything you need to know about pheasant hunting in a very secure manner. So Kaylin's out with his mentor there in that picture. His name's Daniel, who's just a great guy. And I'm kind of hanging back in the back with some parents, and, this woman beside me just starts sobbing, and I could not for the life of me figure out what was going on. So I thought, well, maybe she's not used to hunting. Maybe she just needs a little more, support in this capacity. So I started talking to her, and she said, this is my kid, and I am a single mother of 3 boys, and I just don't have what it takes to get him out in the outdoors like he wants to. He's very curious about hunting. He's curious about, shooting sports, but he doesn't necessarily have the means or the guidance to do that. And she was just so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have him come out and be surrounded by people who are experienced and want to share that experience with him. So Kaylin's been able to now go on a pheasant hunt and a deer hunt with us, which is really, really cool. So in the middle here, you have Quaid and his buddy EJ. And I would say Quaid he's got the bug. He's a waterfowl hunter through and through. There's not a doubt in my body that I think he'll ever stop doing it. So that was really exciting to me to find out about him. And I kept trying to figure out, why was this kid so eager to go on this hunt? I put together a waterfowl hunt with a Derby Ducks Unlimited group, and his Wade Skeen is the one that hosted it. And, for the life of me, like I said, Quaid just kept adamantly saying, I want to sign up, I need to go. And I'm like, okay, it's all you. You got it, buddy. And so we go on the hunt, and, Wade shows up and says, okay, boys, do you want this to be done easy, or do you want to actually work and learn some things? And the boys said, absolutely, I want to work. I want to learn some things. And so the kids were able to learn about decoy spreads and learn about different calls. The whole time, Quaid was sitting there just peppering Wade with questions about what calls to use, what kind of gear do you like, well, how do you train your dog in the off seasons, and that was ultimately why Quaid wanted to sign up for this hunt so badly. He didn't have much success hunting on his own, but he knew if he could gain some experience and knowledge through another person who's done this for a long time, maybe that would change. So on this far right, we have Doug Gallinghouse, and he's under that reactivation side. So Doug is actually in the far right of that picture, and Doug took a couple of his trap teammates, or trap athletes, and then a couple of his kids out to Cheyenne Bottoms, which is a Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism state park, and we were able to do a youth waterfowl hunt at Cheyenne Bottoms. And so it was really exciting. Doug heard about it, caught wind of it, and said, yeah, I want to go. I haven't been hunting in forever. Well, Doug grew up hunting with his dad, was a lifelong waterfowl hunter, but, started a career as a deputy sheriff in Northeast Kansas, quickly had children, and the first thing that got put on the back burner as he got busy was hunting, and we can all relate to that. When life gets busy, it's sometimes the easiest thing for us to kind of put to the side. So there we were, bright and early in the morning, and Doug is trying to shimmy into his, waders after not wearing them for so many years and a few pounds later, and took his kids out and just had an absolute blast. They didn't even shoot one bird, and they still had a ball. They didn't stop talking about it. And Doug has been really refreshing to work with because he's also now encouraged his own Pheasants Forever chapter back in Northeast Kansas and Ducks Unlimited chapter to do a little bit more. And that's really exciting to me because then I can come and assist, or we can all work together to make that happen. So ultimately our goal is to take these youth through these stages multiple times. You know, we want to take a kiddo, you know, say as a freshman on a dove hunt, a pheasant hunt, and then a deer hunt. Well, and then maybe the next year we'll take him on a pheasant hunt, a waterfowl hunt, and a turkey hunt. That way when he becomes or she becomes a senior year in high school and is getting ready to go make big decisions in life, they might be considering themselves a hunter. So a lot of people ask kind of, you know, what do you do for your job? It seems really cool. It seems like you get to travel a lot and hunt a lot. And I do, but I also get to do a lot of other really great things. And essentially I am a, you know, glorified coordinator, broker, and facilitator for the shooting athletes, landowners, and conservation groups. I set out to develop a database of identifiable cohorts. You know, I email out hunt narratives for groups and individuals participating, and a hunt narrative is essentially just an itinerary, right, of all the details of what you might need to go on a hunt, what kind of licensing do you need, what does the weather look like, who are the main people I'm going to be hunting with, what's their contact information. And, you know, I get to basically eliminate the pressure of planning and coordinating the hunt for volunteers and youth, which is really exciting because I think that helps just get more youth out hunting. So we've had some really great involvement with our state wildlife agency. I've worked with our state R3 coordinator, Tana Fanchier, for a while on a few different things. So she's helped us really develop some surveys and to connect us with some state resources. And she's also on our program advisory committee where we can just really bounce ideas back off each other and make sure we're working in parallel directions. We've also developed some partnerships with some wildlife biologists and managers who've opened up their state park for our youth to hunt on. So the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism has a special hunt program where 20% of their hunts go unfilled or they're turned back in for certain reasons people can't go on them. And that leaves, you know, the wildlife manager with leftover tags with kind of very little time to spare to fill them. So what they've done is they've turned them over to me, and I've, you know, sent out the opportunity the best I can, and I work really hard on filling those. And it's been a great outcome because we've been able to fill quite a few of them, and the kids really love it, and typically my mentors are really excited about it too. We also have some of these state park areas planning for future hunts. So we have some of them talking about, you know, what can I do to better prepare my ground? So can I plant a food plot for dove season? Yes, absolutely. And that's been really great. You know, we have kids also talking to us about, well, why do you need a food plot for dove season? And so it's been really fun to kind of connect those folks together. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that as the days get warmer and we can start doing that. You know, like in life, as usual, we all experience curveballs, but that's a great way to grow and reinvent the wheel and figure out what we can do from there. So as many of us know, you know, hunting plans don't always go to plan. Sometimes we have to make last-minute decisions, or sometimes things just don't work out, and that's okay, but I've learned that it's very critical to communicate that very clearly with a lot of these first-time hunters. They definitely need step-by-step instructions and expectations. And that just makes the event go much smoother. You know, we definitely have issues with things beyond our control, like weather and habitat changes or virus outbreaks, but that's not something, you know, that we have to doom and gloom on, but we can just move on from. Of course, we're always competing for time. You know, these youth have jobs and relationships, they're in sports, they're getting ready to go to college. You know, parents oftentimes have financial and time commitment limitations. And conservation groups, too, are always very busy with program events and serving a lot of other kids and adults in the outdoors as well. But it's possible to work around all of these things. It just takes some time and some creative thinking. We certainly don't have all the answers or the right plan or the right method. I'm super new to this, and, so is Mike Christensen, and we're learning as we go. Scalability, this is something that we've been, really dreaming about and talking about for a while now, and this program model, I think, can be replicated in any state that has an identifiable cohort. Here in Kansas, we decided to engage the Clay Target League because it's what we call low-hanging fruit. All of these youth have hunter education or some type of gun safety course. They all typically own a shotgun or know somebody that has one, and they're all already exposed to the outdoors. But that doesn't mean that this model couldn't be applied to 4-H groups or shooting clubs or hunter education classes, maybe even women's groups. I think it can be very much applied to other groups of people or individuals. So the key to this program being successful is having, a hired individual to help communicate and arrange these hunting opportunities for all these youth, which is what I do. At this point, our program, we have a really sound database of youth and parents looking to get out and hunt. And, I just simply arrange that hunt detail and send the detail out to that group and fill it up within hours. It definitely takes a village, and there's not one program to engage and serve the population like this. It takes multiple conservation groups and state agencies and landowners and volunteers to make it all happen. And so recently, we've discussed expansion into Iowa, which is something we are all very excited about. Megan Weiskup and Rachel Alice are in the process of surveying coaches, athletes, and parents over the next few months. They're also currently analyzing 15 years of data to kind of establish a program baseline and understand trends that their population has. Mike was able to present at their statewide coaches meeting earlier this month, and there were about 250 coaches there, and 15 of them, committed to being part of the pilot program this fall. The first question Mike was yielded after his presentation was, when is this going to start in Iowa? And I just think that's really refreshing to hear, because I think it can be applied to a lot of different groups that we're all involved in. So here's some data for all of you who like to crunch some numbers. All the data we've collected is collected through surveys. So our state shoot survey, pre-hunt, post-hunt, and a follow-up survey. I collaborated with a lot of other state agencies like TANA and Michaela Ray from Nebraska, some other NGO programs like the Field to Fork program with Hank and Swanee, and also talked with Mark and Duda and Matt Dempsey on, what's the purpose of a survey, right? What's the information that is critical to collect, but what information is going to help us understand if this is really working or if we're serving these kids well. So at our state shoot this past June, our surveys indicated that over 80% of our kids stated that they had hunted in the past. So this was a pretty primary survey where we just wanted to understand superficial motivations, barriers, and the desire these kids have to hunt. So we really didn't dig too deep into that survey data. However, now that we've been taking these kids on hunting opportunities, again, we still show that 80% of our kids have been hunting, but while 80% of our youth have gone hunting, we have found that many of them only hunt deer or dove, but not necessarily pheasants or waterfowl. We've been able to take these kids out on hunts that they've not been on, and then on continued hunts so they can learn experience from. So of the 222 youth that participated in our program, 55% of them have been hunting less than 3 years. 53% of them go hunting less than 3 times a year, with their top 3 barriers being not knowing where to hunt, lack of access to quality land, and not having anyone to go with. The other exciting thing is that 100% of these youth express that they have family and friends that support them hunting or support hunting, and which is just really, really encouraging, because we all know that it's a lot easier to participate in an activity or a hobby when you have, your buddies next to you also doing it. So that also makes me, kind of wonder why we have such that interesting contrast there. So one of the most interesting statistics I thought we found was that 80% of our youth said they've gone hunting, and 100% of them said that they have family and friends support hunting, but one of their top 3 barriers was that they didn't have anyone to go with. So that's something that, we've all kind of sit back and scratch our heads and look at, and how can we change that? How can we better connect NGO, outdoor community, and youth and make them feel more excited and more able to go hunting, more supported to go hunting, because that's ultimately what's going to make them go through that ORAM model. Of course, we are still gathering a whole lot of data, and I'm still learning how to process it all and dissect it all, so I'm hopeful that we'll have some more interesting stuff to present to you all in the future, too. So because of our program success, many groups and agencies have come to us for help with filling or coordinating their youth hunts. Most of our groups have one thing in common when it comes to completing their youth event successfully, and that's access to youth. And that's one thing, that we have an abundance of right now. We've been able to plug our youth into our program into the surrounding youth events that they don't know about. Just a few weeks ago, I had a Pheasants Forever chapter call me and said, hey, we have a lot of kids from this one specific town coming, and they usually always come, and that's great, but would you mind sending it to the trap teams, within like a 5-county radius? And I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. And, we were able to send a few more kids his way from a different area that wouldn't typically go on this hunt because they just didn't know about it. So what's next? We were going to obviously be doing some turkey hunting, and we were going to have a coaches clinic this Sunday with John Francis, but again, we had to cancel and maybe just postpone those things. We'll revisit them, but we also will look forward to a shooting clinic and a fishing event in the summertime. We also will host a couple hunter education classes and start planning for the fall. We'll also look into expanding into other states. I want to take a moment and thank all of our sponsors for making our program possible. I've just had an absolute blast waking up and going to work every day and collaborating with so many wonderful people in the outdoor industry, and I'm just super thankful for that. And I want to thank every one of you for logging in here and listening to me blab on about our program, and I am more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have at this time, and I think Kristen's been maybe collecting some of those. So you guys can fire away if you want.
Wow. Brittany, first of all, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that overview. Second of all, we have record attendance and the record number of questions. So I hope you're ready to answer some.
I'm ready.
All right. We're going to start at the top with Lauren Phillips. She said, what is the vetting process for your mentors?
Yeah, that's a great question. So mentors that go through our Big Brothers Big Sisters program are thoroughly background checked, they're screened, interviewed, and then they're matched and supervised by a outside source called a match support specialist. Our other mentors are individuals that we've established relationships with in conservation groups. And again, if those people are not vetted and background checked, then we make sure we have a multiple person combination on that hunt. Perfect.
And if you guys have follow-up questions for Brittany, go ahead and just type them. We'll see if we can get to all of them. I'm not making any promises, but I think we'll be okay to take a bunch more. So David Miller asked, where does the funding come from to cover the hunt costs?
Hey, can you repeat that one more time, Kristen? I'm sorry.
Yep, sorry. And some of these were probably answered in your presentation. I just want to make sure that we hit all of them. So David Miller asked, where does the funding come from to cover the hunting costs?
Yeah, so we cover some costs as a program ourselves. We've partnered with a lot of the conservation groups who have stepped up and covered maybe bird costs or ammo costs for certain types of hunts. We do ask that kids, purchase their own hunting licenses and tags. And, if there is a questionable situation where a parent can't afford that, we can step up and take care of that. But I believe that's part of the ownership in becoming a hunter, is that you take care of that stuff.
Perfect. The next question is from Tyler Allen. He wants to know what the percentage of traps and shooting teams were non-hunters and hunters. So I know you said 80% had hunted before, but did you look at what percentage actually considered themselves hunters?
That is something we have not done yet, and it's something that I would like to incorporate into our survey to better figure out where these kids place themselves on that ORAM model, right? So that is something we'll be working on.
Cool. And from Tyler Allen again, he wants to know, are any of these hunts on public land, and how many private landowners participate in this program?
Ooh, we have, I'm trying to think if we had any public land hunts this year. I don't believe we had any public land hunts. I probably have 20 private landowners, and then the rest are state wildlife areas, so state parks.
You guys helping him? He don't know what he's doing.
Oops. Sorry, what was that? Maybe not.
Hello?
All right. I'm not sure what happened. If you are on the phone, yeah, just make sure that you hit mute on your phone or you hit mute on the speakers on your computer. Sorry for the tech issues we're having. But we'll just continue to roll on with questions if that's good with you, Brittany.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Holly Green has a couple of questions. The first one is, can you clarify how you create the connections with the target shooters before engaging them in hunting?
Yeah, so we started off by reaching out to all the coaches. So I met with a lot of them in person or just had a lot of in-depth phone calls. And of course, dove season is a great way to bring a larger group of people together. So a lot of those times, that's where I was able to establish a relationship, partnership with these coaches is on a hunt, and kind of go from there. So the other thing I did was, and I kind of mentioned, I had to cold call a lot of the high schools. So there's a list of all the schools that's available, and I would just call the secretary and ask if they knew who their trap coach was and if I could have an email address or phone number for them.
Yeah, I know you've talked a lot about cold calling.
Yeah.
Was that intimidating when you started doing it? Because I don't know that I would be really good at that.
Yeah, it wasn't so much intimidating as, we were talking, pie in the sky. This is the program we're running. This is what we want to do. And then once we got through that first dove season, through the month of September, really, the coaches were really convinced and really, really sound on what we were doing. I think it's just a matter of explaining that to them thoroughly and letting them ask the questions they have and meet with them if we need to, and to build that relationship.
Awesome. Her next part of the question is, what is the spark that pulls them into the program? So how do you make this look like something they would want to do?
Yeah, I think shooting sports is a great thing. I love shooting trap. I love just being out in the outdoors, and obviously these kids do as well. And I think what is enticing about this program is taking the experience these kids have in shooting trap and applying it to a different sport. Clay target shooting is very different than turkey hunting, right? It's all fundamentally the same, but it's fun to share that with these kids, and then share the idea of like, hey, you could provide, food and substance for your family through this kind of activity. You can aid in conservation through this activity. And did you know what it looks like if you purchase a license? Where do those dollars go to your state? So that's been kind of fun.
Awesome. The next one comes from David Miller. He wants to know, do you work with the Scholastic Clay target shooting or the, hold on, sorry, let me find it, AIM Kids and Families? So is it just the schools, or do you work with, let me see, associations, Trap Shooting Association Youth Shooting Program? Also, do you work with like outside groups, or is it just with schools?
Yeah, so we do use the Scholastic Clay Target Program. We serve those kids as well. There's not a big dominance of those teams in Kansas. I think there's only 3, and we've served kids or I guess youth from 2 of the teams here in Kansas. We're also working on planning some hunting opportunities for the WSU, Wichita State University trap team as well. So we're going a little outside of our Clay Target League, but still focusing on target shooters.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
And Holly has one more, it looks like. She wants to know, how do you overcome the time commitment and the challenges associated with time currently?
In regards to a hunt, or?
I think just in regards to your job, it looks like you do so much and you had so much to overcome to get where you are. So how did you manage your time to make all this happen?
Yeah, there's a lot of planning ahead, and that's great with me because I'm definitely a type A big planner. But really, my job is manageable because of all of our wonderful conservation group volunteers and our program volunteers. It's kind of like the idea of sharing the burden of planning and coordinating a hunt.
Okay, awesome. And she actually just sent a clarification. So she specifically wants to know about the time commitment with the youth and the parents and convincing them to participate, even though it's going to be a time commitment for them too.
Yeah. I haven't really ran into that big of a issue with, convincing kids to go hunting. I definitely have had parents that, share like, oh, I don't know if my kid's available that day. I'll check with them and get back to you. In those situations, I just really try to be relational and one-on-one with those parents or youth and just talk to them about, what does work for them, how can we coordinate and plan for in the future.
Yeah, good answer. I guess getting to them, kind of early while they're developing their habits and stuff can also be a big deal.
Yeah.
Cool. The next one is from Olivia Dangler. She says, do you have a percentage rate of the amount of parents or adults that attend the hunts that are reactivated into hunting?
I do not yet. We are working on that.
Great. But you're keeping, you do surveys and stuff, so you're definitely going to have that data.
Yep, and that is also one of those things that as we've begun to see more and more parents give us positive feedback about getting out and hunting on their own, I think that's another, survey we will have to implement, like a parent survey separate from what we're doing now, to kind of catch more collective data on what they're doing and how we can serve them better, with their kid.
Sure, definitely. And then she also wants to know, do you have a percentage or an idea of the number of parents that start hunting after their kids take to it?
I know there's research out there that will indicate what that percentage is. I don't know what it is in our program, but definitely a percentage I can work on finding for you, Olivia. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, or just in your program, I think.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
That would be interesting to look at, too. Maybe we should work together on survey.
Yeah, we should. I love it. And these are all really fantastic questions, and I appreciate them so much because they're things that, I'm so focused in and focused on certain areas. I don't always think about those questions or those statistics, so it's great to hear that suggestion.
Yeah, thanks everybody for these awesome questions. We have a few more if you're still up for it.
Yeah, of course.
David Miller. David looks like he wants to talk about sponsorship opportunities with you, so that's great. He gave you his email address, so maybe you guys can connect afterward. But he also had the question, is this a Kansas-only program, or do you go outside, or are you looking to expand into other states?
Yeah, so we will be, pilot programming in Iowa this fall. So we are looking to get outside of Kansas. You know, we're going to continue to serve Kansas the best we can, maybe even bring on a couple more folks that can assist in my job and serve even more kids here. But yes, our goal is to expand into some other states as well.
Awesome. That sounds like, you know, you've put in a lot of the base work, so it sounds like it should be pretty simple to get kind of a template program running in other states.
Yeah, this is definitely a model that can be plugged into, you know, different identifiable cohorts. So like in Iowa, they have a really booming scholastic clay target program. So while it's similar to the clay target program here in Kansas, it's still different. And we can just go in and plug our model into, you know, their program.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then Tyler Allen has a couple more questions. Is it possible to get a copy of the survey or a link?
Yeah,
and I know you
love
said, yeah, so before we started this, you had offered that, so I think that would be good. If you want the link, you can email Brittany for it. Her email address is listed there.
Yeah, I think that would be a great way to get that information out to you all.
Perfect. And then the next one is, how much do your sponsors contribute to the program?
You know, every sponsor contributes in their own specific way when it comes to dollar amount or supplies. That's just, you know, based on each individual sponsor.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical of most programs too.
Yeah.
And then his last question is, do you provide new hunters with information about public land hunting? Or
yes,
how do you...
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, recently we've kind of established a really great relationship with the Kansas Backcountry Hunters and Anglers group. And as many of you know, that's their main focus, right? That's their main goal. And they've really helped me be inspired to get that information to kids more often. So when I find resources or information that will help a kiddo learn to, you know, process a deer, or where do I find public hunting at? How do I sign up for a special hunt? That's all information I kind of send out in like a very informal newsletter at this point.
Awesome. Yeah, public land is so important. You know, just most of us, me included, you know, we don't all have private land to hunt on. So getting people onto public land, I think, and it's becoming a lot more accessible too with some of the legislation going on, especially in the West, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don wants to know how many of these kids are first-time hunters.
Well, I would say that 20% of them are first-time hunters. Now, I don't know. Again, a lot of them, 80% of them said, yes, I have hunted before. You know, but I was just up in Johnson County a couple weekends ago, and we did a pheasant hunt where I talked to a group of 4 kids I was out hunting with, and all of them said that, you know, I'm a hunter. And I'm like, oh, have you pheasant hunted before? No, I haven't. So I think that's just like how you identify as a hunter. So if it's 80% that have hunted and 20% of them are first-time hunters, I think it can be seen a little more fluid than that, like hard statistic. Yeah,
that's a really good point. And then popping back to your newsletters that you just mentioned, Holly wants to know, do you have the read rates or open rates on those newsletters? You said they're pretty informal.
You know, yes and no. So a lot of the stuff I do when communicating with kids and parents and even coaches, I do directly through my email. So there's not, I'm sure I could put a read receipt on there, I suppose, but I don't track a percentage rate. But when I send out a monthly update about our program, I typically have about a 40% open rate, pretty good response rate. I think that people are reading it and clicking through the different links.
Yeah, 40% is awesome. You know, on our R3 newsletters, we get around 20%, and our audience is over 2,000 people, but still 40%, that's really excellent. So it sounds like you're doing something right.
Yeah, typically that's the newsletter I get to, you know, share all the pictures in and stories in and give a lot of shout outs to the conservation groups that were involved in the hunt. So that's also really exciting. I think people appreciate that and like seeing that too.
Yeah, for sure. We're almost to the end. We got like 3 more questions.
Okay.
Michael wants to know, is R3 partnering with the different state high school clay target leagues? And I don't know if that's R3 in general. I think that kind of depends on the states, and there are some states that are hitting up those clay target leagues like Kansas and a few others, but I don't think that there's like an official R3 movement to do that. Brittany, do you know any more about that?
Not specifically here in Kansas. I know I'm working, closely with Tana. I do know she still, as an R3 coordinator, is developing a plan for our state still. But again, working simultaneously with a lot of wildlife area managers and biologists to get kids out.
Perfect. Monica wants to know, are the hunts multi-day hunts or single day, and is there a post-hunt contact, and if so, what is it?
So typically they're single day hunts. For example, a lot of our dove hunting was done in the evening. A lot of our deer hunting, we did a lot of evening hunts. Pheasant hunts will go, earlier in the mornings. We did do one overnight waterfowl hunt out at Prairie Dog State Park this year, and that was an absolute blast. So I would say typically one day, but maybe there's an exception for some overnight trips. Those are a little harder to plan, and that kind of reverts back to the question of like how do you deal with the time commitment parents and youth might have. Asking them to go on an overnight hunt is really difficult. So we try to keep it as manageable and possible for them as much as we can. And then, when it comes to post-hunt contact, that's probably me. I try, beforehand to provide all information a parent or youth or even a mentor might need to get through that hunt. And then I also send a post-hunt survey 2 weeks after the hunt so I can revisit them and touch base with them on any questions or concerns they might have.
Perfect. And our last question comes from Brad. He wants to know, have you guys hosted any seminars for different types of hunting, or do you only host the hunts?
So far we've only really hosted the hunts. We have done some shooting clinics, some rifle clinics, more technical workshops, but we do partner with groups, like I said, like BHA and Pheasants Forever locally and try to plug our kids into opportunities that they might have to where they can learn some experience from them.
Yeah, and those partnerships are so important. I know you and I have talked about that a little bit before, but one organization can't do everything, and you shouldn't be expected to do everything. So making those partnerships.
I would sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say I would sure love to be able to do that, but like you said, it's great to be able to rely on other people, in the outdoor industry to host what they want to host. And if that's an informational seminar, then heck yeah, I'm all about supporting that, and I will fill kids into that as much as I can.
Perfect. Yeah. We're all in this together is the bottom line. And I think we need to do a better job of working with each other to our strengths rather than competing to be the ones who do everything and solve all the world's problems. So it looks like you guys have, really nailed it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate all of your guys' questions and comments, and I'm certainly open for more discussion or conversation if you guys would like any too. So feel free to take down my email address and phone number and get in touch with me whenever you want to.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge and your sweet spirit, and we hope you have a great day, and we hope all of you have a great day and stay healthy, and let us know how we can help.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.